Hi, welcome back to Reading Workshop Tips with Mrs. Lee. Today we're going to practice using a really important strategy that's especially important now that many of you are reading books that have fewer and fewer illustrations. So, especially for books like chapter books that now don't have as many pictures, it's important that we're making a picture in our own mind using the author's words as clues to help us make a movie in our minds and help us to think about what the character is doing, what they might be seeing, feeling, hearing, even smelling or tasting in the story. It's important to visualize because it helps us to understand the story better. If we really make a movie in our mind and put ourselves into the story and think carefully about everything that's happening, we will understand it much better. As we're reading, we're going to be thinking about what we see, what we might hear if we were the character, what we would be smelling if we were the character, what we would be feeling or touching if we were the character. And sometimes we might even have some descriptive words in the text that help us to know what the character might be tasting. So we're going to be listening to all these things as we read today. And as we read today, we're going to just listen to the words from a beautiful story called Come On Rain. We're going to stop along the way and stop and write down some notes. So you can get out a piece of paper if you want to, or you can just follow along and do this inside of your head. So listen along as we read together and listen together to this book called Come On Rain by Karen Hess. Today, we're just going to focus on the first part of the story. And then next time, we're going to listen to the second half of the story.
Come on, rain, I say, squinting into the endless heat. Mama lifts a listless finest sighs. 3 weeks and not a drop, she says, sagging over her parched plants. The sound of a heavy truck rumbles past. Uneasy, Mama looks over to me. "Is that thunder, Tessie?" she asks. Mama hates thunder. I climb up the steps for a better look. "It's just a truck, Mama," I say. I am sizzling like a hot potato. I ask Mama, "May I put on my bathing suit?" "Absolutely not," Mama says, frowning under her straw hat. "You'll burn all day out in this sun." Up and down the block, cats pant. Heat wavers off tar patches in the broiling alleyway. Ms. Grace and Ms. Vera bend, tending beds of drooping lupins. Not a sign of my friends Liz or Rosemary. Not a peep from my pal Jackie Joyce.
All right, so now let's think about some of the things that the character was seeing and hearing, smelling, feeling, maybe even tasting. What did you notice? Tell me some things that you were seeing when you were making the movie in your brain. Well, I remember the girl was saying that her mom was in the garden and the plants were drooping. They were parched because there was no rain. So the soil was probably dry. So I'm going to write the plants were drooping and the soil was dry. And Mama was working in the garden. I remember they heard something. Do you remember what they heard? That's right. They heard a truck. And Mama wondered if it was thunder. So I'm going to make a question mark there. And I'm thinking when I was making my movie in my head, I thought at that part maybe Mama was feeling worried because she didn't like the thunder, is what the main character was saying about her mom. I also am thinking about some feelings. So I remember the character said she was sizzling like a hot potato. So I know that means she felt very hot. And I remember everyone was sweating. And that's why she asked her mom if she could put her swimsuit on. And then I also remember she saw some cats on the street. Some cats on the street. And I don't have room for this, but I also remember she didn't see any of her friends around. Maybe it was too hot outside, so they were all inside. All right, that's all that I can remember from this part, but maybe you remember seeing or hearing or feeling other things when you were making the movie in your brain. You can add those things to your list now if you want. Let's keep listening and making a movie in our brain for the rest of the story.
I stare out over rooftops, past chimneys, into the way off distance. And that's when I see it coming. Clouds rolling in. Gray clouds, bunched and bulging under a purple sky. A creeper of hope circles round my bones. "Come on, rain," I whisper. Quietly, while Mama weeds, I cross the crackling dry path past Ms. Glick's window, glancing inside as I hurry by. Ms. Glick's needle sticks on her phonograph, playing the same notes over and over.
So what are some things that you saw or heard or felt in this part of the story? Yeah, I saw that too. I saw she was looking at rooftops. I was imagining like a city maybe where there's lots of rooftops, just like here in Boston when we look down a street and see lots of houses all in rows. And she saw gray, bulging clouds. So big, like puffy clouds in a purple sky, I remember. So I was envisioning what it looks like when it's rainy and cloudy outside. And I can picture that in my brain because we've had a lot of rainy days lately. And I remember that Mom is still weeding in her garden. I'm going to write that down. She's still weeding in her garden. And then I remember something we heard on this part, that her neighbor, when she looked in her neighbor's window, she saw that her neighbor was listening to music on something called a phonograph. Now, we don't have phonographs really around anymore, but the important thing is that I remember that she heard her neighbor listening to music. Now, let's keep listening and see what we see in our movie next.
The smell of hot tar and garbage bullies the air as I climb the steps to Jackie Joyce's porch. "Jackie Joyce!" I breathe, pressing my nose against her screen. Jackie Joyce comes to the door. Her long legs, like two brown string beans, sprout from her shorts. "It's going to rain," I whisper. "Put on your suit and come straight over." Slick with sweat, I run back home and slip up the steps past Mama. She is nearly senseless in the sizzling heat, kneeling over the hot rump of a melon. In the kitchen, I pour iced tea to the top of a tall glass. I aim a spoonful of sugar into my mouth, then a second into the drink. Got you some tea, Mama, I say, pulling her inside the house. Mama sinks onto a kitchen chair and sweeps off her hat. Sweat trickles down her neck and wets the front of her dress and under her arms. Mama presses the ice-chill glass against her skin. Aren't you something, Tessie, she says. I nod smartly. Rain's coming, Mama, I say. Mama turns to the window and sniffs.
So at the start of this part, I remember she smelled something kind of stinky. Do you remember what she was smelling? Yeah, it said she was smelling hot tar. And tar is like the black stuff that goes on top of the streets. And sometimes when it's really hot in summer, you can really smell it. It's kind of a strong smell. So she smelled tar on the street, and it was mixed with garbage. Because I know sometimes in the summertime, when it gets really hot, the garbage cans get extra stinky at my house. So I know exactly what that smells. And then I remember at this part, she sees her friend, and her friend has long legs like string beans. That's how the author chose to describe her friend's legs. So I'm imagining her friend's legs that are long legs like string beans. She's talking to her friend and asking if her friend wants to come outside to play too. And then I remember when they go inside the house, Mama, where does Mama go? How do you picture Mama? Remember when she came in from the garden? What did your movie look like? Yeah, Mama flopped in the chair. And then, do you remember something that Mama was feeling? Remember, she flopped on the chair and she put something on her chest. Yeah, Mama put the cold glass of lemonade on her chest to cool off because she was feeling so sweaty. She was so sweaty. And so I bet that this felt so good because I know in the summer when I put something cold on my body when I'm hot and sweaty, it feels so good. I remember in this section, there was also something that the character tasted. Do you remember what it was? Yeah, the girl tasted sugar and sweet lemonade. Remember, she put that scoop of sugar in her mouth and then a scoop of sugar in the lemonade, and that must have tasted so sweet and cold and delicious. Sweet, cold, and delicious. And then the last thing I remember is that in this section at the very end, Mama goes up to the window and she puts her nose out the window and sniffs. And what does she smell? Yes, Mama smells the rain coming. Now, right now, I'm sitting in my house right near a window on a rainy day. And the window's open a little bit, and it's drizzling a tiny bit outside. And I can smell that smell of rain, so I know just what it smells like and just what the author's describing. Can you think of a time when you smelled the rain outside your window? I bet lots of us can imagine just what Mama's smelling right now before the rain starts to come. All right, you guys did such a great job with this today. I can't wait to read the rest of the book with you on Friday. Today, as you're reading your books, I want you to practice this strategy of really visualizing what your character is seeing and hearing and smelling and feeling and maybe even tasting in your books as you read, because this really helps you to understand the story better. And great readers always visualize as they're reading their books. If you want to do something extra, you can also take out a piece of paper now and draw a picture of one of the scenes from the movie you made in your brain today from this story. So maybe it's a picture of Mama in her garden. Maybe it's a picture of this girl going to put on her swimsuit. Maybe it's a picture of the girl making a big cold glass of lemonade for her mom. I'd love to see your pictures, and I know your teachers would too. Have fun with it and enjoy reading your books today. I'll see you on Friday. Bye.